start by disconnecting the negative battery cable. Next, disconnect the positive battery cable and slide it to the side. Next, disconnect the mass airflow sensor electrical connector by sliding the red locking clip back away from the sensor, pressing on the plastic tab of the connector and pulling it away from the sensor at the same time. Next, loosen the hose clamp that fastens the air intake hose to the throttle body using a short flat screwdriver. Next, detach the metal retaining tabs that fasten the upper section of the air filter box and separate it from the air filter box. Next, detach the air intake hose from the throttle body. Disconnect the breather tube located on the side of the air intake hose by pressing on the plastic tab and pulling on the tube at the same time. Next, disconnect the hose located on the other side of the air intake hose and proceed to remove the air intake hose assembly all the way. Next, remove the bolt that fastens the air intake box using an 8mm socket and a ratchet. Once the bolt is removed, pull upwards on the air intake box to detach the plastic pins from the rubber grommets and remove the air intake box all the way. Next, remove the nut that fastens the positive battery cable to the starter solenoid using a 13mm socket. Next, remove the nut that fastens the solenoid signal wire using a 10mm socket and disconnect both wires from the starter solenoid. Next, loosen the cap of the coolant recovery tank. Place a clean drain pan under the left side of the radiator and loosen the drain valve to drain some of the engine coolant. Once you have drained about a gallon of coolant, close and tighten the drain valve. Next, compress the hose clamp shown with the arrow using a pair of pliers, slide the clamp away from the thermostat housing and disconnect the radiator hose. Next, detach the plastic clip that fastens the wire loom shown with the arrow by pulling on it with a pair of pliers or prying it up using a flat screwdriver. Next, remove the starter bolt shown with the arrow using a 13mm socket, an extension, and a ratchet. Next, remove the second bolt using a deep 13mm socket, an extension, and a ratchet. Once the starter bolts have been removed, remove the starter by pulling it in an angle as shown on the screen. Before installing the new starter, clean the mounting surface of the engine where the starter makes contact to ensure proper ground connection. When you install the new starter, make sure that the retaining bolts and the nuts that fasten the cables to the solenoid are tightened properly. Proceed to install the remaining items in the reverse order. Next, fill the cooling system with the correct type of coolant described in your owner's manual. Make sure that the coolant level is in between the cold and full mark, and install the cap on the coolant recovery tank. Next, start the engine and pay attention to the temperature gauge. Once the gauge reaches halfway, turn the engine off and allow it to cool down. Remove the cap of the coolant recovery tank and fill it to the hot mark. Install the cap and start the engine again. Repeat this procedure a few times until all the air has been bled from the cooling system. If everything works correctly and there are no coolant leaks, congratulate yourself for having performed a successful repair and for saving money at the same time.